Hello mi gente and welcome back to Nata Knows Best. So today I am making the popular dessert flan. But I'm not just making any flan. I'm making Puerto Rican flan de queso. This is a hybrid of the classic caramel flan, but it has the texture of a creamy cheesecake. This is so good. So let's get into it. So the first step in this recipe is to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And while our oven is preheating, we're going to start on the caramel sauce for our flan. Now this is actually a very simple caramel sauce because all it has is sugar. So the first thing you're going to do is put a saucepan to heat. You're going to put it on medium-low heat, and you're going to add 1 cup of white sugar. And it's very important that you do not stir this white sugar. You're just going to allow this sugar to melt on its own, and as you start seeing it crystallize, then you're just gonna swirl it. So whenever you get tempted to pull out a whisk and start whisking, do not. Instead, swirl it, okay? Moving right along to our custard. For this flan, you're going to need the standard ingredients of condensed milk, evaporated milk, eggs of course, and then to give it that creamy cheesecake flavor, of course, we're gonna have to add some cream cheese. So the first thing you wanna do is add all of your ingredients into a bowl. Remember, for all ingredients and instructions, I will list the recipe in the description box below. Next on the list would be to add our cream cheese. Now I'm trying to do this pretty quickly because we do have our caramel melting in the background, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to add in our full package of cream cheese. This is softened cream cheese, and it's also important to note that every single ingredient I'm adding is at room temperature. This is going to prevent your custard and having any clumps. So even though right now it looks pretty clumpy, we're just gonna continue to mix this until it fully incorporates. But we're also going to add a last minute step to make sure that any last minute clumps get removed. Next, to our cream cheese and milk mixture, we're going to add our eggs. This recipe comes with 5 large eggs. Again, all of these ingredients, including the eggs, are room temperature. All right, so I've added most of our ingredients, and the last one left is our vanilla extract. Here I have 2 teaspoons. I'm just gonna add them in, quickly incorporate it. I can smell our caramel almost done, so I'm just gonna quickly check on it and I'll be back. All right, so clearly our caramel is done. It is the perfect dark amber color. So I'm just going to turn it off. So I'm done incorporating everything, and I'm still working very quickly because our caramel is done and I don't want it to harden. So our last step is to pour our custard into a mesh strainer, just like that. And we're going to make sure that there are no clumps. All right, so it's time to start assembling everything. Here I assembled a round silicone mold, and underneath it I have a glass baking dish. And the first thing I'm going to do is add our caramel syrup to our silicone mold. You want to be very careful with this because after all, it is melted sugar we're working with. So now that I've added our caramel and I finished straining our custard, I am going to add it in on top of our custard. Now I'm going to add it on top of our caramel, just like that. We are going to cook this flan in a water bath, so I'm adding hot water just around the edges of our glass mold. You want to make sure you don't actually get it inside of the custard because then that would totally ruin everything. Now that we're done assembling our flan, I'm going to bake it for 1 hour until the custard is set and the center just has a very slight jiggle. Okay, and I'm back. So I just took out our flan de queso. It is perfectly cooked, so I'm just gonna let it rest in the same water bath for about 2 hours, and then once that's cooled, I'm gonna put it in the fridge and let it cool overnight. In the meantime, I'm just going to cover it with some aluminum foil. It's the next day, which means it's time for me to take our flan de queso out of the fridge. I've had it in the fridge overnight cooling, so at this point it should be fully firm. Now, if you guys remember, I actually baked this flan in a silicone dish like this. So it's gonna be really easy for me to remove it. But if you guys baked your flan in a traditional aluminum or metal dish, what you're gonna need to do is grab a knife and gently run the knife around the edges just so you can loosen up your flan a bit. The next thing you're gonna need to do is grab a plate, and we're gonna do the little flip. So put your plate on top of your baking dish, and very quickly you're going to flip, okay? And hopefully when you lift your top, your flan is undisturbed and looking beautiful like this one. But if it's not, don't worry about it, because at least your flan de queso is gonna taste amazing. So now that I took it out of the dish, I'm gonna cut myself a little piece and give it a try. I got my piece, so let's get to trying. Mi gente, the texture on this flan de queso is so velvety. I just love the fact that it's not overly sweet like their traditional caramel flan. Because we added the cream cheese, it definitely balances out the sweetness and gives this a little bit of tang that really, really works in this recipe. Just look at the texture on this. It's a little more dense, but it is so creamy. It really is like a hybrid between flan and cream cheese. It's the best of both worlds. So as some of you guys may know, I'm going to be adding this recipe to my Nata Knows Boricua playlist. If you haven't checked it out, I don't know why, because this is a playlist that I've actually curated for you guys, and it has every single popular Puerto Rican dish in one place. So if you're looking for a specific Puerto Rican dish, check it out. Or if you kind of just want to learn all of the Puerto Rican recipes at the same time, you can go ahead and watch my playlist in full. I'll go ahead and link my playlist over here for you guys. Remember to stay tuned next week for another delicious recipe. And as always, mi gente, thank you so much for watching Nata Knows Best. Divino.